And here we go with Health, Wealth, and Happiness, Season 5, Session 12, wrapping up our 5th season. We're going to start our 6th season next month, and we're going to dive into the theme of relationships, both from the health, wealth, and happiness perspective, as well as from business. Creating, building, and maintaining exceptional relationships, which if you've been following our training over the last few months, we're talking about world-class, exceptional being, feeling, and doing on this planet. Cannot wait to get into that with you. Really going after it. Today I want to talk through one of the biggest requests I've had as I've shared the fact that I actually curate like volumes of links from social media that really help me use the power to feel my very best. And there's a framework that will break down for you. So many people reflected on, and some people just kind of glide into it, but they reflected on the fact when they go through social media, they're very much around the idea of, I'm going to let the world just show up. And some days I might feel better. Other days, and most of the time they say this, I don't feel as good as when I started to consume social media or started to get into videos or started to get into podcasts, stuff like that. So we're going to go through a framework that's really powerful. I'm also going to share with you my top 5 favorite social media people that really bring quality, love, compassion, growth, all these values, and we'll go through values and ambitions too, into my being, which are critically important to me. I'll even share one that's a little controversial, I would think, but if I assess what's emotionally moved me the most inside of a TikTok video, believe it or not, I'm going to share that with us. We'll watch it together right after we do our values and ambition work. I think you'll see how it all connects through that lens. You may feel it too because it hits on some really powerful notes of love, care, compassion, honesty, integrity. These are all really critical values, and we'll talk more about this as we get into this, that really help me understand and connect with certain we'll call them influencers. I don't really like that word, but certain people online who are putting out really wonderful content. The best part about this, if you're in the coaching business, if you're building your own courses, if you're doing membership work, you're going to be able to pull out themes here that you can pull into your work to greatly resonate, or more amplify, I would think would be a better word, amplify how people resonate with your content. Does that make sense? Like, how often do you say in a video, if you're on video, how often do you say, hey, you know what I believe? I believe, and you may have a different version of this, this is what I say. I believe that we have a limited number of breaths on this beautiful planet. We have a limited number of heartbeats. We have a limited number of minutes on this planet. And my goal is for me to help you through every breath, through every beat of your heart, and through every moment of your life, have a more vibrant, sensorial, loving, caring, positive experience on this planet. Recognizing that life will show up. It'll drag you down, but we've got practices to get back on set, back on task, back in the world, reset, rejuvenate, restore our being and our mind to be the best we can be. To stay, as we've talked about in our previous trainings, more above the line than below the line. Real quick, I'll review that. About ownership, accountability, responsibility, growth, ambition, positive energy, that's above the line. Then below the line, blame, excuse, denial, gossip, drama, negative energy. Does that make sense? We have to command. We have to stand strong, tall, and courageous with what we are consuming and what we don't want to consume. Number one takeaway so many people have shared, and I've challenged people to do this. If anybody in a Facebook feed, for example, is predominantly sharing neutral or negative or drama-based stuff, I mute them. And I'm muting, now I'm pretty muted. So the only things that show up for me when I get on Facebook, for example, are the goods. Every once in a while things seep through and is this a one-time thing, life showing up for them? Or is this a continuity piece? And I'm like, boop, they're out. Mute. Or permanently mute or block, depending on, I haven't had to block anybody. But does that make sense? We have to be very clear about what we're really standing for and what we're not. That's the first part of our training. So I just want to make sure we're setting that stage as we step into this conversation. Like, big question you may ask, hey Char, how do you use the power of social media to feel your best? Because when I get into it, I come out of it all different ways, and it's not usually better than when I started. And we're going to walk through that framework today. First one, you got to be clear about what you stand for and what you don't. So let me kind of pre-frame this through the lens of what we talk about as the 5 Ps. When I get on social media, my focus, and it's so clear, if you have a pen and paper out, let's draw this together. Is this an infinity symbol? So draw an infinity symbol, and then in the one loop of the infinity symbol, draw the word info, and in the other loop, draw the word identity. And this drawing psychologically represents that the info coming into our being informs and becomes our identity. The info or the identity, the info that comes out of our being, informs and encompasses other people's like identity. Does that make sense? Like, we're an absorption of that, and when we put stuff out, we're putting stuff out that informs and updates people's identity. My focus is never to help people identify with negative, neutral, gossip, drama, just garbage, in my opinion anyway, content. Once I got this, and this was at High Performance Academy in 2012 or 2013, I went to the airport, I sat down in my chair, and I'm waiting for the flight, and I look up and there's the news. Couldn't hear it, could see the titles, and I'm like, oh, that's got bad info. What was going on was like, plane crashed, and I'm getting on a plane, and the dramatized thing and blah, 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 and I'm like, oh, that's not good. So I became ultra aware of the info and what the sources were for me, and I said, okay, from today forward, I'm going to be extra vigilant about being somebody that provides good info to help people inform their identities in ways, and maybe their self-talk in ways that'll make them feel and be better. And I'm only going to let things in or consciously let things in that inform my identity around neutral or negative. And I'll get into what that means in a little bit. Keep in mind the word Reddit, and I'll talk through what that negative-ish stuff that I would review and why. I'll talk about that in a sec. But the concept is the info identity loop is a great thing for you to absorb and think about. Some people have drawn it out or printed it out and put it on their wall, and they teach their family it. Imagine a world where you have the info identity loop here on a wall that the family sees, and then right next to it you have above the line and below the line on another, we'll just say it's in a frame that's been printed, and above the line's in blue, and the line's black, and below the line's in red. I love those colors. Blue, open, blue skies, awesomeness. Red, danger, stay away. Ownership, accountability, responsibility, growth, ambition, positive energy. Below the line, blame, excuse, denial, gossip, drama, negative energy. Just think about that and reflecting on that as a family. Isn't that amazing when we can do that? So we've got to be really clear. If we're going to go through and use the power of technology, the power of the internet, and specifically as part of today's training, the power of social media, to truly feel our best, what's the pre-frame? And the pre-frame that I like to think through is I want to assure when I'm consuming social media that it feels purposeful to me. Purposeful in the sense, did this enlighten me? Did this help me laugh? Which I got some great ones for you. Did this inform me in a way that, oh, I didn't know that. Wow, I had no idea about that, and I find that very interesting. That happens to me with astronomy and with Tesla and the way that they're handling full service driving, which is mind-blowing. Just recently, and I'll be sure to share this link below, this guy went through and broke down Lake Mead, which if you ever fly to Las Vegas, which I happen to do sometimes, and you're flying in, you'll see Lake Mead, and you'll notice the rocks are dark and then they're like super light. And Lake Mead has been losing water like crazy this last year, like meaning that it's going down like 5 feet every month or something. It's just insane. And he explained what a Deadpool is and all this, and it was all inside maybe a minute long TikTok video that completely enlightened me about the reality of this and how we structured the Hoover Dam to hold water back, and we're kind of screwing with nature as humans, and nature's like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna do what I want. And this guy breaks it down for you. So it informs me. I feel very purposely informed about what's going on at the world level, and I don't really have much I can do to fix that, but I have a better understanding of it if I want to share it with others, just like I do with you. Does that make sense? So the passion. the very best TikToks, for example, that I've curated, and I'm going to teach you how to curate, and I'm going to share my curation. Karen, thank you so much for asking. Would you teach us how to curate? How do you curate? What does that even look like? Because there's magic, especially in the work that Karen does through the lens of humor, joy, and applying that to really uplift and purposefully help others. Does that make sense? So gold. To bring positive energy. Like when you go through so many of the things I'm going to share with you, and we'll do one or two together. I'll kind of put them into our work today. Hopefully you'll feel uplifted. I've really picked some winners for you. I hope you enjoy them. Productivity. Is this moving my life or my business forward? I follow very specific people who have for months, well, a year in 2 cases, helped me understand the latest and greatest technology, websites that really make a difference to helping people simplify and automate process, as an example, that help me understand any changes Google makes. Like there's a person on TikTok, it's a girl, and she used to work as a Google engineer in the Google Maps department. Do you think she'd have some insight on how things should work? Yeah. If you followed me at all and you have a bricks and mortar store, any kind of place with an address that's physically accessible, meaning like a storefront, something like that, like people should prioritize being in Google Maps well before they should build a website. Why? And this girl that I follow on TikTok kind of breaks it out for you, but I've known this for quite a while, because now in Google Maps, Google Profiles, Google Business Profiles to be more precise, you can add services with pictures and descriptions. So each service has its own, or products or whatever, has its own thing. You can integrate updates, like blog posts, in this. Who uses Google? And Google rewards you, this girl confirms this, the more you put energy in on a continual basis into Google Maps, guess what? The more you show up. Does that make sense? Like there's magic there. But the art is she shares these 30-second to 2-minute clips, and they are profound. How did I discover this? Because I knew when I was going into the areas that I wanted to learn and keep up with, and then use the proper trending tags, they're called hashtags, to sort out people who may be there. And then I'm good about the intuition of what works and what doesn't. 30 years in that business, you kind of get an understanding. And I'm like, these people are the ones. So I'm hoping to share with you in segments of things that are ambitions and interests for me, the very best people I've curated, along with some very specific videos that are just off the wall hilarious. The most emotional video we'll watch later together. It's about 1.5 minutes. I can't watch that thing without tearing up. And it's in a good way. It's like in a really profound good way. It's a stand for humanity through the lens of some things that have happened in the world recently. And I just really want to make sure we paint the frame of why the emotional response. And maybe you'll have it, maybe you won't. But we'll have that pre-frame for that so that you'll get what that is. And if you're a content creator or want to be a content creator, that you can pull some of this, compile this, so that when you go out and build content for others, that they're like, oh, I love this person because they resonate with me. They're saying the stuff. They're talking the lingo. They're bringing their true, authentic self into this. They're creatively expressing in unique ways and going after it. If I haven't told you recently, thank you so incredibly much for being here with me. Going through this journey, sorting out, living a life of vibrance. As we talked about from the beginning, I believe every breath we take, every beat of our heart, every minute, we really need to ignite good, positive, healthy, loving energy, vibes, thoughts. And that's my job, and I hope we're doing pretty good so far. So going back to the 5 Ps, we have, through the lens of content curation, looking at things, saving the ones that are really important, rewatching them, diving deep, sharing them. We have a way, and I'm going to document how this works, to really amplify the quality of your life. To use the power of social media to truly feel your best. Day in, day out. How does that sound? Tall order, isn't it? And of course, if you get into this and you want to turn this into a revenue stream, there's a great opportunity for that. YouTube ads, YouTube ad revenue, meaning that you get paid for people viewing your video. You have to have minimum of 1,000 subscribers. You have to meet a monthly, I think it's a monthly hourly goal of total view hours. And then you can be eligible for their AdSense program where they'll pay you because they'll place ads in your content that are sometimes relative to what your content is. And then you get paid parts of that. Kara and Nate, one of my favorite YouTuber couples that demonstrate a life fully lived, nonstop with challenges and so on. I'll make sure to link to them below if you haven't heard of them. They're making bank. Every one of their videos this year that I've seen, I'm going to look back, maybe not all the videos this year, but almost all of them have hit at least 1 million views within a month of them being put online. They usually do videos weekly. And they started out in 2017, just sharing their journeys. They decided to take a year off and travel very frugally, like less than 75 hours a day spent around the world. And they shared their journeys. And they're just great people. And why them versus others? We'll talk about that through the lens of values and ambition. Does that all make sense? Well, if it doesn't, don't worry, because we're going to cover it. So kind of recapping what we talked about so far. I'm not using social media as a thing to, I'm going to pass some time and I'm going to stream forever. That's a very reactive way of using social media. I use social media through the lens of intention. Like, I want to grow, I want to feel better, I want to learn new things, and I want to do better. And I want to discover things that I don't even know exist. Possible places to travel, possible experiences. I'm thinking of this TikToker in Miami, P-A-O or P-O-A, who says one of their TikTok streams is things in Miami, or fun things to do in Miami you didn't know exist. Part 1. And then they'll take you through this visual tour of something. And just so you know where I live, Miami is across Alligator Alley, about 2 hours. So that's like a nice, cool, go there in the morning, have brunch at the Betsy on Miami Beach, which is one of my favorite brunches ever. And then go and do some of these things they suggest. One of the things I've never been to is the Seashell Castle. It's south of Miami by, I think, 20 minutes. Coral Castle, I think is what it's called. And it's a cool experience. I didn't know it existed. These kind of people show it to us. Does that all make sense? Is this igniting you at all? I hope it is. Back to the lens of the 5 Ps, is this stuff feeling purposeful? Is it helping me live a better life? Is it something I could maybe, I'm doing it right now, share with others that would help them live a better life? Because that's part of my purpose statement. A lot of P's right there. Is to help improve your life somehow. I hope this is already helping you. Next up is the passion. Is there emotional engagement, enthusiasm in the content that I'm consuming? Is it positive? Is it productive? Does it move things forward for me? There's a whole host of productivity experts, productivity tips in YouTube and in TikTok that really help assess and reassess new lenses, new ways to look at productivity to get more done in less time and to delegate. People showing you how to delegate to Fiverr and what that whole process looks like. Takes all the confusion out of it. Hey, I had this project. I decided I didn't want to do it, but it needs to be done. So I went on Fiverr and I did these things, and here's how it all worked, and here's the whole process. Documented. It's insane how cool that is to me, maybe to you. And then generating income through that lens. Effectively generating income, going back to that last clip. So I hope you're sensing through the lens of the 5 Ps, and we'll draw them up here. As I draw them up, I would love for you to think about how purposeful have you felt using or contributing to social media? How passionate do you feel about it? Does it bring you joy? Or if you're a contributor to social media, are you bringing other people joy? How productive does that feel? Is it moving people's lives forward if you're contributing? Is it moving your life forward if you're consuming, right? How profitable is it? Does it help? And maybe it isn't the actual act of using social media that generates profit, but it's the insights that help you live more profitably. Great example of that are people that help you understand apps like Truebill that really show you how you spend your money and how to refine, gives you great ideas, how to refine your spend so you save more, i.e. create more profit, right? Just some things that come up. So gold. I get so excited talking about this. So this ends the 5P part of our training, the perspective piece, through the lens of using the power of social media to feel our very best. Let's get into the meat, shall we? So the very first thing you have to be clear of, and I would challenge you to get out a journal right now, get some notes out. Maybe it's a note in Apple Notes, whatever it is for you, get out your notes, and let's just go through this together and sort it out. The very first thing you got to be extremely clear about, that's why it's in red, is to be clear for what you stand for and what you do not stand for. The reason I went over, once again, in our trainings, we do this, it seems like every training now, above the line, below the line. And the reason I do that every training, by the way, is because in my coaching sessions, when it's appropriate, I'll either reveal or re-reveal the above the line, below the line. And at the end of the sessions, I have to ask, it's part of our process, what did you get from today? What was the thing you loved the most or got the biggest insight from? And without a doubt, and I track all this, people have shared that above the line, below the line is changing my family's relationship. Not only their immediate family, like a husband and wife and maybe children, but it's also changing my extended family relationship. It's helping me pick better friends. It's helping me understand why when I'm transcending through personal development or self-improvement, why I'm distancing certain people, because they're below the liners. And I'm up here above the line now predominantly, and it's like square peg, round hole. So when we really think about what we stand for, one lens to look that through is to say, hey, I stand for things that promote ownership, that promote accountability, that promote responsibility. And ownership, accountability, and responsibility is everything about the video I'm going to show you in a little while. That is the most emotionally moving video that I've seen to date in short form. So that'd be TikTok kind of videos, below 3 minutes. And just thinking about it, it's just amazing what to live into the above the line part. I cannot wait to show that to you. Ambition, growth, positive energy. Below the line, blame, excuse, denial, gossip, drama, negative energy. There's plenty of that going on online. You know that if you've been online at all. I get rid of that. I don't want to see that. I do not want to see that, except for an exception, and let's go over that right now. The exception is I've created and manifested an amazing life. My previous relationship was one of chaos, I would call it. Struggle, challenge, frustration a good part of the time, especially when things got heated in the last 2 years of that relationship. And I stayed below the line in the struggle and all that for an enduring period of time, and I hated it. What I hated worse was the fact that my daughters, who were 1.5 and 3.5 at the time, were 1 and 3. I guess it was 1 and 3 at the time. They had to endure that neutral or negative energy, especially as they got in their formative years where they could remember it. And so I made it a clear choice to get coaching, counseling, psychotherapy, ask for help, which is always number 6 or the last item interaction list. And if you're here, you're already on the right path for that. To course correct, to develop a great life. Well, I would even say an exceptional life. And for the last, get this, since 2006, and the filming of this is 2022, I have literally, since January of 2006, have lived my best life, and it's only amplified and gotten better. So here's the issue. When I'm coaching people, when I'm in there, it's very easy to stay in the land of awesome, as we want to call it. But I have to force myself to get into below the line realism. And I do that so that I keep a toe in the struggle pool, so that I have a frame of reference for lives that aren't exceptional like mine has turned out to be. I'm very blessed for this life, and I'm very grateful for it. So I go to the subreddit in Reddit, reddit.com, reddit.com/relationship_advice. And I spend an enduring amount of time in that area, in that threads of conversation for at least 3 or 4 times a week for about 10 to 15 minutes each. Because the way Reddit's structured, there's moderators involved. There's a lot of life truths there. And I need to be continually reminded of that, to be reminded of the fact that something we teach in high performance, to honor the struggle and recognize that every human has challenges and frustrations and chaos in some form. Even I have that to a degree, even though I'm living an exceptional life. You know, I've committed to many things, and there's things that happen in that realm that are exactly exceptional. So I have to remind myself, and I challenge myself to do that 3 or 4 times a week for 10 to 20 minutes, sometimes 30, to get into the conversations, get into the threads, to see the reality of life that isn't a life by design like mine is, but is a life of reality through the lens of some crap people have been dished. Does that make sense? I do that for very clear reasons. I have to be as rounded as I believe I can be, I have to get my feet in the struggle pool for an enduring period of time. And that, as I've tested many, many, many ways to do that, that is the most effective way for me to live there for a while, to really get the humility and the grounding in that realm. And there's some tear-jerking things going on. And one of my goals as I go into the next year is to really, hopefully, develop something that helps people in really heavy-duty times of need. And online, I don't know what it is. I'm going to sort it out. Or join forces with something like that to help people who are getting crushed in relationships. And that's why, as I mentioned when we started, season 6 is going to be all about relationships from a health, wealth, and happiness perspective. It's going to be all about relationships through the lens of business. Because here's what we know. Most exceptional businesses, world-class businesses, create, build, and maintain exceptional relationships. We got to define that. Does that all make sense? So relationships is a key marker here. And that's the part where so many people reported. If you can help me and role model with me and talk me through frameworks to be better, do better, and handle things better, I would love that. So I built this framework for the health, wealth, and happiness for season 6, just a few pieces to that. And then I built the business component to that, if you will. And it's coming out really well as we think about the next season together. That all being said, that's me using the power of social media to feel my best, because then I feel much more informed and well-rounded with the reality of the struggles of life. I'm not all floating up here and, hey, I'm in awesome land, even though I technically am in amazing land here, awesome land, in my lifestyle. Is that helpful? So my challenge for you as we come out of the gate, define what you stand for and what you don't. And let me give you some context for that, but also, where are you, if you live a life like I do, where you've really created it by design and really moved into it, where are you still stepping your toe into the world of reality? And are you doing it by design? And I don't mean like watching a reality TV show. I mean like the real honesty of it. And of course, people can make up stories, but when you read the stories in Reddit, like, there's some real people are in a closet with a cell phone that's connected to Wi-Fi at their neighbors, and they're like being abused, and they're just spilling their guts. And an anonymous tag, but they're just looking for advice. They have nobody to turn to. That's shown up many times in that subreddit. Does that all make sense? So that's what we want to be clear about. What do we stand for? I stand for a set of values, a set of non-negotiables, we'll call it. So what I did is I brainstormed for you there's many, many values that I have that I stand tall and strong with, and values that I don't value. And so I'm just going to go through some of the high level values that I look for through the lens of what I stand for. Is that helpful? So let's break that down. The first one is unconditional love. If you'll notice, and I was assessing this before we started our training today, you'll see a lot of the shares that I have, there's some form of unconditional love going on. And sometimes it's disguised, like with the mom, Judy, I think it is. And she's the one who, I'll make sure to link to her channel below. I don't think we'll watch any of that today. But her daughter, who's probably in her 40s or 50s, captures her mom. And her mom's face, she has these eyebrows that go like this. It's her mom, she'll go, Mom. And she'll go, what? Well, the reason I'm doing that is because of this. And at the very end of the videos, it's very common for the daughter to say, well, I love you. And she goes, I love you too. And some of the stuff that happens in that particular channel, that TikTok feed, if you will, absolutely hilarious. The ones that are pinned, when you go to it, just watch the one where she's got to dance to get in the car. Like tears of laughter are coming out of me. Do you sense how this is helping me feel better and do better? So unconditional love's part of that. You'll sense the love between them, even though it can be disguised and sneaky, is a check. Now, one thing I want you to be aware of, and this is something I was coaching somebody on, they're like, I never even thought of that, is that anytime you have a checkbox from here forward of things you want to maybe assess yourself on, check that, did that video have unconditional love in it, for example? And instead of checking, put a number in from 0 to 10. It did not have unconditional love, it would be unchecked. 10, it had tons of unconditional love. And what I mean by that is you're able to assess through the lens of the degree of completeness that video has, that content creator has. And if you align your values with content creators, like I have with Kara and Nate, with Elaine and Riley, Sailing La Vagabond, and I'll be sure to link to both of their channels below, you'll see how, they resonate with me. They resonate with my values. They stand for what I stand for. I'm going to watch that and enjoy that and look forward to when they release their episodes every week. And I'm going to be in wholeheartedly. I'm going to get my popcorn. I'm going to get my drink. I'm going to snack. I'm going to get my blankie. I'm going to make it movie night. But then on a movie, I'm going to watch this beautiful content creator, or couples in that context, making great content. And it's going to be a night of fun because I'm going to watch Elaine and Riley, and then I'm going to watch Kara and Nate, and then I'm going to watch so-and-so, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to hit TikTok and hit my favorite creators. And I'm going to have a 2-hour love fest because those are the values that they espouse or elicit through the lens of what I enjoy. Does that make sense? Oh, it's so good. Next one, care. What I'm specifically thinking about is that they exhibit care, but I love it when they do care for others in the world, or one of those things. When we watch the video, the most emotional video, you're going to sense, it gives me chills telling you this, the deepest levels of care. Oh, it brings me to tears when I sense, especially 2/3 of the way through it. I've watched it a dozen times, probably more. The deepest levels of care. Oh, it's so good. So if I was to rate that video, Unconditional Love is a pin for it, 10. Care for others in the world is a 10 plus. Next up is humor. That particular video doesn't have much humor in it. That's okay. That's not what that video is for. But if we go to another channel, Bro Builds, I think is what it's called, and I'll make sure to link to that below. All these two guys do is they share these one-liner jokes and laugh at them. But the jokes, generally, not always, are hilarious. And they're new to me, so they're extra funny, right? So through that lens, going back through it, are they demonstrating unconditional love? They care for each other. These guys are best friends. Are they caring about others in the world? Yeah, we want to make you laugh. We're doing it in a nice way, above the line way. Humor, nailed. Joy, nailed. Creativity, the way they do what they do, the jokes, the way they tell them, it's a very uniquely creative, expressive way to do it. You'll notice this is a punch list for you if you're going to be a content creator. Is that helpful? Boldness. Did they push the line? There's a guy, and it's hard for me to recommend this, but you'll sense care and unconditional love and humor big time and joy, but he really pushes the line, and many times he goes way over it. TooTurntTony. Turnt is to get extremely wild. It's a word, T-U-R-N-T, to be extremely wild. I'm trying to think, there's some other definitions of it, but extremely wild is it. And he's overly wild and going after it. Does that make sense? So TooTurntTony, I'll link to him below. I'm going to warn you in advance. Some of the stuff is gross and probably over the line, and he's gotten busted by the cops and stuff. And it isn't stuff that really harms people. It's just super extra funny and sometimes very inappropriate. I'm warning you in advance. But he hits the marks, and he's ultra creative, and he only gets more creative. And he has his pet duck with him all the time. And his pet duck, people are like, is this duck used as a prop? And he posts a TikTok, just so you have a frame, of him and ducks ever since he's been a little kid. It's his thing to have a pet duck instead of a pet cat or a pet dog. And it's not the same duck, obviously, from when he was little, but you get the idea. Creativity, boldness, yes, compassion, going back through the lens of others in the world. That video I'm going to show you, you're going to sense the deep levels of compassion for others and the world, along with mentorship that's just amazing. Is this helpful? Honesty, integrity, trust, openness, vulnerability. These are all pieces of the puzzle that when videos exhibit this, especially smaller ones, short form, TikTok, I'm drawn into them. I didn't put in growth. Growth is a value that I have, but the ambition is there. Am I growing through this? Is this helping me get better? Is this something that's funny and rewarding, but also like, oh, that was creative. Yeah, these things ignite me. This is a short form of a bigger list. My challenge for you is to take some of these, make more. I'll make sure to link to the values. I got this massive values spreadsheet or values document of just tons, hundreds of values that you can just comb through. And some of them are categorized. The whole thing is categorized too. And I got it off a website, so I'll just link to the website in the comments. So you can at least have a smorgasbord of values you can pick from. Does that make sense? Once you're clear on the values you like, that you're looking for, and you see them appear, there's a massive resonance. And it's like that particular group of people, or the couple, Kara and Nate, they resonate with me at a 10 plus. They're the people that I would want to be hanging out with, the people that I want to be in a major way when I go and start traveling and so on. Once this, there's a couple life changes going on. My youngest daughter is going to college. So I'm empty nested, essentially. And yeah, so we're looking to travel more. And we do have traveled. If you watch my YouTube channel, you see a lot of the vlogs we put together in Switzerland and stuff like that. But boy, do they push the creativity and the boldness with some of their challenges. I'm like, I never thought about biking across Iowa as part of a yearly summer thing they do in a group where you create community and stuff. So that'd be another value, community. Does that make sense? So we're just really trying to stir the pot here about what we stand for and what we don't through the lens of values. Second up is really a encapsulation of what we just talked through, is know what you value and also know where you want to grow. So let's talk about that for a minute. It amplifies what we've done here. I know what I value. Here's a small smidge of that list. And I know where I want to grow. And I know where I want to keep growth in mind. So there's so many things I'm passionate about. Astronomy, AI, web marketing, internet marketing, those kind of things. A side note on that. There's a guy, Maxwell is his name. I discovered him on TikTok, curated, who is about the hooks, the emotional driven words that actually work to get people's attention, to have them click something, to live into something. Does that make sense? Maxwell, and I'll make sure I link to him below for you. And of everything I've learned over the course of 30 years, this guy is spot on with what he's saying. So the signal to noise ratio is very high. High signal, low noise. Like there's not a lot of content in his realm that he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's very much on point with it. Does that make sense? So that's an area I want to grow and I want to maintain growth with. I also love psychology and I love speaking. So I'll make sure to link to a couple of my gold videos, which you'll see. I'm going to share a smidge of my, I'll just bring it up in the post. I'll put up a smidge of my curated note for general life tips. And one of them is this idea of how you position the camera up here, here, or here to demonstrate different authority poses, if you will, or non-authority poses. Another one is a guy that talks about how you speak with your hands. He's a master of gestures. TikTok. So I want to know the this is the part we teach in high performance. I want to know the physiology of all this. So I've got a guy for that. Is this exciting to you? Is this too much? So my challenge for you as you think through number 2 here is, what are areas that you may be an expert in, but you still want to put your finger on the pulse of what's happening? And then what are areas you're like, ooh, I need to get better there. I need to be a better speaker. I need to be a better gesture, if that's a thing. I need to be a better in my relationships. I need to study. Oh, there's so much goodness in psychology. I need to study psychology. There's people that are on there that are full of crap, and there's people that are on there, and I'll try to find one and link to it below. I can't think of her name, who is a 20-year psychologist and shares psychology through the lens of relationships, hints, tips, and tactics for you to have better relationships. A great example of that is something we teach in high performance. When your fuse goes off with a significant other, you pause and you say, hey, you know what? My fuse just went off. I'm going to take a break for a little bit. I'll be back. I just want to make sure I'm bringing the best to our relationship. That's like a psychology hack. Did you know that? That's the magic of what goes on here, is to be better, do better, and live your very best. Is that helpful? This is so good. Oh, I love this. So be clear about your values. What do you value? What do you not value? What do you stand for? What do you not stand for? Then be clear about, okay, if I go into this month, we teach this in high performance coaching inside the charge. These are the competencies that I want to build. These are the areas that I want to, or an area, maybe pick one if it's a big one for the month. This is an area that I need to get better in. So there's guys on TikTok and gals that are sharing how to appropriately place ads and get smart about the automation of ads if you're trying to grow sales for a business. There's also people that teach you the psychology of sales messaging, the psychology of sales cycles and discussions. We'll talk about that, how to create an irresistible offer next session today. That's a big part of this ongoing part of being exceptional in what you do that we've been promoting through our teachings as part of season 5 here. But there's people out there that will really help you with that. And the trick sometimes is to find the ones that are authentic. And that's the offer that I have for you is like, if you're in our mastery community and you're like, I got people, but can you run it through your spidey senses to sort out who's actually legit? Send them to me. I'd love to do that. Really, really powerful. I'm going to give you a bunch that I find completely legit. That's the thing. So the two big red areas, if you want to use the power of social media to really feel your best, you've got to be clear on what you stand for and what you don't stand for. Imagine a world where you're going through your feed, and you probably know this to be true. On Facebook, we'll just use it as an example, and it's crap after crap after crap. Probably not going to feel your best after seeing all that. If it's crap, good stuff, crap, crap, good stuff. Probably not going to feel your best after seeing that. If it's good stuff, enlightening stuff, holy moly, that's kind of neat. Wow, they did that? Cool, that's a great idea. Poof, gonna feel better, aren't you? So you have the command and control to be able to do that through the interface, where you can mute people. Helpful? Next step, what do you value? Where do you want to grow? And when you're clear on that, the world opens up. Because the algorithms, especially the For You algorithm inside TikTok, and even the algorithms in Twitter, and in YouTube, and in Instagram, to a degree, will start to show you more of what you love. Oh, you like that? I'm going to give you more content around that area, or that ambition line, or that growth topic. Helpful? All right. Third area, and this is the big part of everything being brought together, is you need to curate the winners. So I have what I call my resource list, which is a note in Apple Notes, and that's more for business internet mastery. My resource list is everything business internet mastery. The tech side, so Webflow is in there, Wix is in there. If I'm building any websites today, and I build them in 3 hours, this company we've worked with, great friend of mine, Catherine, and I'll link to her site below. She's like, I need a website to sell this Miss Maddie's barbecue sauce, and I need to sell my bottles. I bought a bunch of inventory, and I have them sitting here, and I got to sell them. And I'm like, you got it, girl. I'm gonna whip this site up, and we'll make it feel homey and all this, and we'll put some testimonials in there, and it's da-da-da. And we'll have PayPal for now. Later on, we can do maybe subscriptions if people want to buy and have it auto rebill. But right now, we just need to just get something up, get orders going. And so I built the site using Wix.com, Wix.com. And I built websites back in the 90s by hand with HTML and pictures and the whole shebang. I'm like, this is amazing because you can control the desktop experience and the mobile experience. But I've learned about much more tools. And the cool part is sometimes when you go into a tool, you have to get a subscription to use it. In TikTok, in YouTube, if you know the tool's name, you can go and watch people use it. And then you get an idea whether it would be aligned with what you're trying to accomplish. Another great tool is Jasper.ai. It's AI writing, where you can say, hey, write me a blog post on this topic on, let's say, cleaning a house, and write it for a 7th grader. And Jasper, the magic of this is mind-blowing. You can use it on your iPad, you can use it on your computer. I'm looking over there, there's an iPad. And you can make that happen. I discovered Jasper and saw how it was used through, guess where? TikTok. I found I think it's Copy.ai, which is another AI thing. There's so many tools. I'm going to be posting, if you're not in our Facebook group, make sure you are, because starting right away, actually, we're going to be doing every Tuesday and possibly every Friday, websites that change the world stuff. And this is all coming out of my curated content in TikTok, which is stored in my note called My Resources List. And right here, I'll show you a clip of what the resources list looks like and how every month I go through, and the latest findings are at the top. July 2022 is the recording of this. June, May, and these are just the ones that came up that were like gold, that are really helpful for me, for our projects, for moving life forward and being more purposeful and productive, to be truthful, which leads to more profit. Does that all make sense? Then I have another thing, TikTok and More is the name of, I think it's the name of that note. And in that one, I have the life tips. And some of these life tips, the reason it's TikTok and More is because some of these life tips are in other platforms, but generally in TikTok. And that list goes on for pages. But I'll show you a clip of that. Just to have a frame. There's the top part, I love it, the gold. Then I have some of the ones that are like just hilarious, or like, holy crap, that was so funny. And then I have kind of like what I was talking about in the other note, the latest findings. July, June, May. And what I do is I purposely go back through those to reignite that joy. You know how you listen to a song again that you've heard? And you're like, oh, that song's so good, it makes me feel good. That's how I feel when I go back through this. That's how I get to feel my very best in social media. So my challenge for you is, do you curate the favorites? Do you save them in a playlist in YouTube? Do you save them in a playlist in TikTok? I prefer to save them in my own note because then wherever I'm at, I can bring them up and I can get right to it without having to dig through stuff. Beep, 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 beep. So whether it's on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, I'm like, I know where that note is. I get in, click the button. I'm like, watch. And people are like, how did you get to that so fast? Because I curate the content. So it may seem like, oh, how do you do all that? It's simple. I just copy the URL, the link that I'm on that page when I'm on it. Or if I'm on my phone, I'll forward that link to me, like through text. And then I'll copy that. I'll review it again to see if it's really worth it. Sometimes I'm tired and I do these things. And then I'll put it in the right category. Does that all make sense? Is this helpful? So imagine a space in a world where you have curated content that you know makes you feel better. And you just click to click to click to click. And you're replaying the faves. And you're growing and you're learning and you're feeling better because of it. That's the space we're creating here. Does that feel good? Thank you again for being here. I love to go over this stuff. Thank you, Karen, for inspiring this training and making it happen for you. So I'm sharing some of the winners below. Cool. Next up, we have to assess each platform. So I'm going to show you a screen right now of, on my phone, it's the second page of my phone, of the main players in the areas that I really enjoy. So you'll see Kajabi there because in Kajabi I can go and get to the trainings that I have and that others have that I'm signed up for. You'll see the Growth Day app in there where I can get in there and learn new things. That's part of social media because you're working with others. You can comment with others, so there's a social aspect to it. Growth Day is run by Brendan, our master coach, who I was certified under for high performance coaching. And you'll see in there Flipboard. I think it's in the phone. I'm definitely on the iPad. You'll see in there Twitter. You'll see the big ones, Instagram, Facebook, those kind of things. You won't see LinkedIn. But the concept is clear as to why. If LinkedIn's in there, I don't use it. I don't think it is on that screenshot. We'll show it up right here. But the concept's clear. At the end of every month, I assess each of the social media networks that I've participated in. And if they're still worthy of me participating in them at all, I leave them on that screen. If they aren't, they're off the screen. That's why I don't think LinkedIn's in there, because LinkedIn to me is a disaster right now. The feed is better than Facebook for me, but I get bombarded with just, I don't even know how to handle it. 5 to 30 messages a day. Hey, Char, let's get on a call. Hey, Char, let's do this. Hey, Char, let's do that. I tried responding with a pre-captured phrase, like I used keyboard shortcuts to be like, hey, thanks so much for reaching out. Thanks for sharing what you do. I'm not interested at this point, but have a good one. Take care, Charlie. And all that does for most of them is, oh, they reacted and they double down on it. And then they'll email me because they get my email address through LinkedIn. I'm like, oh, that's not where I want this to go. Like you gave them attention and now they're amplifying it. Does that make sense? So LinkedIn is, oh. My point with this exercise is this. If you don't have the apps the way I've structured them, whatever it is, just take all the apps that you frequent and rate them 0. I don't enjoy this. It does not make me feel good at all. To 10, this really enhances my life. So I do that rating system and I assess at the end of every month how I'm doing in all the platforms. TikTok is a 10 plus, primarily because I've trained the algorithm to show me stuff that makes me feel great and makes me learn and is aligned with my values. Does that all make sense? So good when you get it. Facebook is a 4. I have curated, I have turned off the people that are negative. I get in there and I'm just like, it's a eh. The reason it's a 4 and not a 0 is because there's so many people in Facebook that I love to see and what they're doing. But one of the other sides is there's a lot of, even with the people that I have not muted, life sucks, comment that, maybe a little political here and there, not enough to mute them. I'm like, if I'm going to spend time anywhere and I have a limited amount of time that I allocate for social media consumption, it's going to be in places that are high rate. But I still dip my toe there. Reddit, on the other hand, is an 8. An 8 primarily because I'm really learning and getting ingrained in the humanity of things, as well as following other subreddits. For example, Fort Myers subreddit, Naples subreddit. People will be like, best tacos in Naples, go. And I'm like, I love tacos. What do they got for me? Best brunch in Naples, go. I know about Jane's Organic. I didn't know about Goldie's. Huh, all right, let's research Goldie's. Like, that's really helpful for me feeling purposeful and feeling better in life. Is that helpful? So, challenge for you. Do you visit Reddit? Have you rated how you've enjoyed it or not? Do you rate your social media? How often do you assess social media through the lens of this is something I enjoy, this has value to my life, this is, and maybe after you've had to adjust, mute people or train the algorithm or whatever, and live into more of the stuff that you enjoy and eliminate the stuff you don't. Does that make sense? So the reason I put W, M, and Q is because you can do weekly assessments here, monthly assessments, quarterly assessments. My challenge for you, if you're watching the replay or if you're with us on our premiere, is just to pause the video, take a quick assessment. Has any social media brought anything to your life? Are you looking at social media through the lens of your values and what you want to learn and what you enjoy? Or are you just kind of haphazardly letting it dictate stuff to you? Does that make sense? So good. Oh, love this stuff. Next up is you got to trim, and we've talked about this at pretty good details, trim the negative, neutral, I think I almost misspelled neutral, amplify the positive, and growth. There's a guy on TikTok, his name's Devin, I think, who is on subways. I don't know if it's in New York or where, but the ride's long enough where he's an artist, and he can draw somebody sitting over there and capture them watching their phone or just sitting there staring or being uniquely creatively them. And then he hands it to him, and he films this whole thing, and he hands it to him and says, hey, I drew you. And the responses he gets, the love that he has when he hands it, the care for others in the world, sometimes the humor, the joy of this, the creativity of this, the boldness of this. Can you imagine? Some people that he's handed to had face tats with tattooed eyes that were black. One dude, I was like, that guy looked like you ripped me a new one. The compassion he has. Dad and the son are there. He does the whole thing, draws it out in pencil, and it looks exactly like it. I'll try to link to him below for you. And he hands it to him, and they're like, can I give you a hug? That whole idea that he captured a moment for a son and a dad. The son's probably in his late teens, early 20s, and the dad's probably in his 50s or 40s. And they're like, we'll save this forever. Does that make sense? That's the implication of good in the world. That's what I'm talking about when we curate. So what we really have to think about is amplifying, trimming the negative and neutral. We've gone over tactics for that, and amplifying the positive and growth. So what is it? Kind of bringing this back to some tactics for you. Where are areas of your life that you want to grow? Is it in the psychology of relationships? Done. TikTok's a great place for that. YouTube is as well. Is it in the application of growing your passion for something? Like me, astronomy. And tied to astronomy is anything SpaceX, anything Tesla's working on through the lens of AI, because that's not really astronomy, but that would be more an AI bucket. But there's some correlation there. So these are just some ideas. And I just want to make sure that we're sitting down and tactically thinking through that for you. My challenge for you, if you're in our mastery community, is in our Zoom. We'll touch on this today. But in our Zoom is to really go deep on these concepts. And then this goes back to that part of my purpose statement, is to help you from where you're at to where you want to be. And you may not know where you want to be yet. So my job is to give you options, to stir the pot. And that's something I love to do. And you're like, well, I kind of like this. And I'll say, what about this, this, and this? Gardening would be a great example. I love gardening. Ooh, have you followed this person on TikTok? Have you followed this person on YouTube? Have you followed Susie? If you like to cook, Susie Vidal, Only Pans is her channel. Or she used to do that. I don't know if she still does it. It was kind of like a little innuendo in her cooking. But she makes amazing things. Every time she gets done with something, I'm like drooling because it looks so good. And then she's talking about how she built it. And she walks you through quick, super quick, 30 seconds to 60 seconds about how she makes this beautiful taco. And just recently she did these cheeseburgers with buns. She just made the bread dough and it was so good. And I'm like drooling. I'm talking to my wife. I was like, hey, what? You want to make those? Yeah. Okay. That is an inspiration. And Susie's energy. She's very much around unconditional love, very caring, humorous, very humorous, brings a joy. Sometimes she'll tell you, I'm not feeling the joy right now because I'm so tired, but I know I got to do this because it's on my mind and I want to get this done. And she's still bringing the joy. Bold, creative, the whole shebang's in there. I'll make sure to link to Susie for you. Yeah, so this is the concept. If you can reduce or eliminate the crap and amplify the good and spend more time there, wouldn't you feel better? Does that make sense? I hope we're giving you enough here. Just real life examples of this, times the fact that it's all accessible from your phone. It can really change your mood. It can really amplify and inspire and motivate you. Or can send you down to a negative path of bleh. So we just got to be clear about that. Good stuff? Bonus is my list of sheer winners. So I've shared many of them. I will make sure to link to them below. But right now what I'd love to do is for you and I to take this time. I just want to get you in the right mental space here. To think about the values that are important to you through a semi-controversial topic. I'm not going to reveal much more than that. You'll get it when you see it. And you and I will watch this together. And afterwards we'll kind of break it out and think about it. And understand why it resonates so deeply with me that it really moved me. And it really helps me understand some of the areas that I feel like I need to contribute to others in the world with. So when you get done with this, maybe you'll be inspired. Maybe you'll be a little upset. Maybe you'll see this man talk through something from a place of, I would say old school, but from a place of ultra wisdom and common sense, through the lens of saving people, through the lens of sacrifice, these kind of things. So let's go ahead and watch it together. Take a deep breath, and let's go ahead and watch this. I'm going to watch it on my iPad, and I'll see you in a bit.
But if you come to a school in this county armed, we're going to do our best through either our guardians, our school resource officers, or our school resource deputy sheriffs to eliminate the threat outside of the school before they ever get to the children. We're trained to do that. Now, if you have trouble understanding that, let me give it to you in Polk County vernacular. This is the last thing you'll see before we put a bullet through your head if you're trying to hurt our children. We're going to shoot you graveyard dead if you come onto a campus with a gun threatening our children or shooting at us. Now, quite frankly, here's the deal. We're going to charge directly to the threat. There's no mustering. There's no gathering up. We go individually to the threat and engage it. That's what we train for. Why do we train like that? If they're shooting at us, they're not shooting at the children. Now, we don't want to be shot either, but given the choice of being shot and killed on the ground or those children dying, we'll die every time. When you turn your children over to us at the schools, they are our children all day long. And that's how we respond. That's how our training responds. Quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, an hour until they engage the shooter, that is absolutely unequivocally unacceptable.
Oh, did it again. What fired off for you watching that? Now, you know I'm pretty sure you know, one of my life anthems is my children are my only real legacy. I take the commitment of being a parent so incredibly seriously and deep. And to see somebody speak to that through a scary time in society, especially in the United States, through the lens of wisdom, knowledge, decisive action. And then if we pick apart The values: honesty, integrity, trust, openness, vulnerability, boldness, compassion, creativity, joy, humor, care, unconditional love. There wasn't much humor there. A lot of these values show up. I've really tried to figure out why I rate that as the most emotional. I put it in the notes, and you'll see it when you probably already have seen it when I put in the cutaway for the curation. That Sheriff Grady melted me. I'm sitting here, I'm scrolling through TikTok, it's giving me all goods, and then that comes up, and I'm going to grab the tissues. I'm having a cry, and I'm like, what just happened here? And I rewatch it going, what? Because you watch something the first time, you're like, just emotive response, and then you're starting to get into the intellect of why that mattered. And I'm like, oh my goodness. That meant something to me. And maybe it didn't mean anything to you, and that's fine. That's the beauty of being human. But because of the value system that I have, it really aligned with it. So I really want you to think about this if you decide, and maybe you already are engaged in social media, what values are you espousing? What uniquely creative, expressive view? I'm giving you tons of fuel here with a lot of the great people that I've curated to really go out and accentuate world-class exceptionalism that would really speak volumes to the kind of people you want to attract, and simultaneously the people that you don't want to attract. There's people like you and I who resonate to language like in demonstration of, I deeply care for you. Or you're seeing that caring in action, much like Sheriff Grady. I am very compassionate about this, or about helping you, or whatever that would be. And you're seeing it in action, right? So when we look through a video you've created, and we look at through the lens of a values checklist, if that makes sense, this is a great example. Are you living into that? How can we amplify that? What needs to change about our energy and our words and our demonstration to really go after that? And if you're not, that's fine too. You don't have to put content out there. Nobody says you did. But when you're watching things through the lens of values, what makes you feel better? What makes you feel your best? To me, I feel like a pinball on a machine of just bounce off this thing that makes me feel great. What's it got for me now? Bounce off this thing. Every once in a while it misfires and I'm like, skip that. Let's go. I really hope today's training has helped. And these examples have really proven to be true for you around the premise of the power, using the power of social media to feel your best. Have they helped? What's one takeaway, insight, thought? What's one thing you loved about our journey today? So far, we still got to do our action list. What's one thing you're committed to? I would challenge you to share in the comments. I'd also challenge you to like this video. I'd also challenge you to comment like, here's how I'm going to change, or here's what I'm committed to do through the lens of consumption. Here's what I'm committed to through the lens of creation. So consumption is where you're watching videos. Here's creation is where you're creating videos and putting them out. And here's some questions I have about things, and then I'll happily answer them in the comments if you're watching the replay, or in our Zoom roundtable, or if you're watching the replay and you come into our next Zoom roundtable, I'll happily answer them there. Well, that being said, this ends the training part of our work today, and I hope the video I shared with you kind of ties this all together, ties this beautiful package up of what we're trying to accomplish through the lens of being intentional, through the land of wisdom, knowledge, skills, abilities, fun, growth, excitement with social media. That being said, let's go ahead and jump into our action list. Very first thing is you need to journal, think through, and maybe you do this exercise is really powerful. Have a note open of what I stand for and a note open of what I don't stand for. Have a spreadsheet open with 2 columns, spread them out. Here's what I stand for, here's what I don't stand for. Sometimes it's easier to say I don't stand for negative. I don't stand for emotional abuse. I don't stand for narcissism. I don't stand for sociopath behavior. I don't stand for this, psychopathic behavior. And then do contrasting exercises. I stand for people who are ambitious. I stand for people who are growth. I stand for positive energy. I stand for, we'll go back to the above the line, ownership, accountability, responsibility. Does that all make sense? So that might be a start. And that's something you might want to open journal to, where you add to it every day. You're like, oh, I thought, because when you set your brain on a task, it's like it starts to fill it in and you're like, oh, that just dropped into my head. I need to put that in my stand for stack or my not stand for. Second, brainstorm what you value and what you don't value. The link that I have below where it has over 200 values, you'll be like, this is something I strongly value. This is something I don't care about. Okay, cool. Highlight the ones and you might print it or copy and paste or whatever it is for you, and just highlight the ones you value. And then what happens, this is the beauty of the reticular activating system. When you get clear about what you value and the way the algorithms work, and you start liking and watching them more, the algorithm throws more of the stuff that's similar to you. It's so gold how the algorithm, the AI in that works, the algorithm part of that. Third, open your curation strategy. That's the part where I think I feel my best. Because I've got, as you've seen, a list, and you've only seen this clip, but I've got a list that goes a mile deep of winners in the different realms. My resources list, life tips, a great example of that. Oh, it's so powerful. In the United States, if you have health insurance and you take an ambulance ride from your house to a hospital for ER 3 miles away, it's common to pay $3,000 to $5,000 for the ambulance ride. It's a line item on an invoice. You took an ambulance ride, it was $3,500. And you'll see that all over the web. Reddit's got a lot of that. TikTok's got a lot of it. It's also common if you're in ER or have to go into ICU at all for a enduring period of time, a day, 2 days, 3 days, to be in the tens of thousands of dollars fast. So there's a TikToker. I'll see if I can dig her up and put her in. I'm pretty sure I can get to that. It's curated. I'm pretty sure I curated it. And she is the girl that works inside one of the big health insurance agencies that says if you're self-pay or you don't want to pay the $40,000 for a 3-day visit to ER with a $3,000 hospital, here's exactly how you approach this. Here's the person, the title of the person, and the part of the business you need to call. And you need to ask, this was gold, a line item invoice. She said, we will gladly be removing, because we don't want you seeing this, $75 Q-tips. Like $70 each. For a Q-tip, you can buy at Target for a whole box of them for like $5-10. Does that make sense? So she gives you that life essence. Well, then that's her theme. And then she does more of that. So that's a really important part of the curation strategy, life tips. Another life tip. There's a lot of countries right now, and I just got turned on to this, that actually pay you or make it tax advantageous for you to live there. Bali's one of them. Albinen in Switzerland is another one. If you're 40 or below, they incentivize you to live there and they reduce expenses. They almost, and in many cases, they actually pay and help you pay rent, reduce rent costs because they want people. Did you know about this? I had no idea. This is amazing. There's people who buy properties and list Airbnbs, and they walk you through that. Short form, here's an Airbnb, here's a property I bought that became an Airbnb, here's how much we're cash flowing it. And here's the approach for that. Go onto our YouTube for a longer form video where we train you on it. Is that helpful? That's just some of the stuff that's appeared for me. Just want to make sure you got that. Assess your happiness and growth and schedule it. Really take some time. What I've been watching has been crap. I'm going to get rid of it. Like I'm not going to like it and I'm going to skip it. The algorithm learns that, okay, you don't like that stuff. But the stuff that you watch and you like and you share and you comment on, it like triple downs on that, if you will. Brings you similar content. So we really have to assess per platform, per person. Sometimes we've got to train the platform. What is that really brings us joy and growth? And growth can mean, if you're an entrepreneur, that you're creating relationships. LinkedIn's a great example of that. Schedule the time to assess yourself. Schedule the time to go through it. Number 5, pick your place and pick your winners. So my place, as you know, 10 plus TikTok. My winners got lists of tons of them. All kinds of stuff that hits all these values and more. Double down on it. Go back through your curated content and click those winners. In a minute, 30 seconds each, you click 10 of those. That's 15, 20, 30 minutes of time. Good? Awesome. And then finally, if this is all like, how do I approach this? That's what a roundtable is for. I'm here for you. If you're like, I got some initiatives, I don't even know where to start. I'll teach you searching for hashtags and trending topics. we'll go over that. We'll do it in a roundtable and we'll bring it up on the big screen. That's what this is all about. That's helping you live a full life, a life of happiness, health, and wealth, and mastering it. Was this helpful? I'm going to ask one more time. Please take a moment, comment below or email me. What's one thing you're committed to, and maybe one thing you loved about our training today? And know this, there are good people in the world. Because of the relevance and the ease of access and the low operating costs to get on video, we're getting a lot of weenies, I'll call it weenies, neutral negative energy, but we have the choice and we have the ability with almost every platform to curate and kind of create and command our own experience through the lens of what we value, through the lens of what we want to grow into, and what we want to explore as possible topics. Neil deGrasse Tyson has a TikTok channel, and every time he pops up in my feed, I'm following him, every time he pops up in my feed, I hear his voice, and I'm just like, oh, his voice is so soothing, resonates so well with me that I love it dearly. And it's usually something very informative and helpful. All that being said, please know I'm here for you. I'm sending you positive, loving, healthy energy, vibes, and thoughts. And if you have any questions about today's content or you need more training or articulation, let me know. We're on it. And I'll see you in our business training, then I'll see you in our Zoom roundtable. Sending you tons of love. Have a good one. We've rocked it. Yeah.